Okay, we're live. Let's see. This is a new software here, so I'm trying to figure it out. Can't really see. Let me see something real quick. Okay, yeah, we're good. Okay, what's up, guys? Live from Jay Vincent's kitchen in Tampa, Florida. I'm here to talk some smack. I'm here to talk some smack about one of my favorite athletes. I'm here to talk some smack about the way athletes train, which is ridiculous in most cases. As you can see, I got a little more official here and got a mic because what I'm about to say is very important. So, I would like to start off just like the last live stream. We're going to start by me going into detail about a particular subject, and today it's going to be pro athletes train like idiots, as you can see across the bottom here. I'm going to explain what a lot of them do, why it's wrong, what they should be doing, and tie it all in together into pretty much why athletes are just killing their careers by doing some kind of exercise folklore. So first, I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to show you guys a video of one of my favorite athletes. I'm a New York Giants fan, being from New York. And it was a huge disappointment. If any of you follow American football, you're probably familiar with Saquon Barkley. Tremendous freak of nature. 6 foot, 230, ran a 4.340, maybe a 4.4. Bench press 225 like 33 times. He's a nut. Freak of nature. I saw this guy as being one of the best running backs of all time. Now, I think he's about second or third season in. He gets hurt in his second or third season. It's over. It's over for him. And I'll tell you why. It's over for him because of the ridiculous, superstitious, and outright stupid and dangerous training protocols that he does in the offseason. Now, I'm going to show you a video of back when he was at Penn State. And he did a very impressive lift, a power clean for 405 pounds. Great demonstration of strength. I'll show you. Let me guess, it's Tom Brady. No. Oh, no, I got a bone to pick with him too. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to show you this ridiculous. Our entire screen, share audio. Our entire screen, yes, share. All right. Cool. Now how do I get out of this here? Stop sharing. So, it's pretty impressive. But the problem is, he has been training like this probably since high school, obviously since through college. And I can almost guarantee that he has continued to train like that throughout his NFL career. And I believe that he is also very superstitious, that is part of the reason that he is a successful athlete, is because of his explosive training. So back when I used to think that he was going to be a Hall of Fame running back. But the fact that he trains like this, and I can almost guarantee he continues to train like this, I predict that next season and the season after that, he'll be injured, either right in the beginning. He'll be injured at some point during the season, and his career will be over. And he'll be doing broadcasting probably. Here's the reason. Those high-force Olympic lifts are not particularly exercises. They are a display of strength and ability in a very poor and dangerous way to improve strength and athletic ability. When you do these high force movements, you are creating actual structural breakdown in the connective tissues, bones, ligaments, tendons. You're creating microtrauma over time, and eventually that connective tissue is going to give, and it's going to snap. Saquon Barkley had a torn ACL in his second season, very likely due to what he does in the offseason. So consider that he's training however many months in the offseason. What was it? 8 months, 7, 6, 8 months. And he's training like this, and he's just chipping away at his connective tissue. Week after week after week after week. A good analogy I like to use is think of like a rubber band. If you take a rubber band and you just do this. If you do it 100 times, and then you look at the center of the rubber band, your notice is going to be kind of damaged, kind of frayed. Essentially, that is what's happening to your connective tissue when you perform lifts like this. You're just slowly, over time, creating microtrauma to the tissue, weakening it, and eventually it snaps. Football is a dangerous sport as it is. It is a high-force sport. The human body really is not designed to handle that kind of thing. And when you get to the level of the NFL, you've pretty much got a weaning out process of, it's like a funnel to genetic freaks. So we'll start off with, say, 1 million high school football players. Then we cut it down to Division I, and then we cut it down to NFL. Basically, those who are not genetic freaks kind of wean out. They kind of fall to the wayside. And then you're left with people with particularly strong bones, extreme neuromuscular efficiency, extreme strength, extreme levels of cardiovascular and metabolic endurance, and extremely strong connective tissue and bone strength. Otherwise, it would have gotten injured before they made it to the NFL. So, and the problem is that if they took their training in a slightly different direction, and they're completely unaware of this because the strength and conditioning programs are pretty much passed on from idiot to idiot to idiot over time, and here's why. So let's say you got Alabama, okay? Alabama football, dominant. They have the best recruits. They recruit the best athletes, the most genetically gifted, ridiculous freak athletes. They all want to go to Alabama because they all want to win. They all want to get into the NFL. So when Alabama wins a national championship, the strength and conditioning coach gets some credit for that. Unbeknownst to him, he had almost nothing to do with it. Basically, he contributed, likely, to any injuries that took place on the way towards the NCAA championship. So you look at Alabama, they win the NCAA championship, and you look at what they're doing for strength conditioning. Alabama is so fast, so strong, so agile. What are they doing for strength and conditioning? And then you look at their program, you go, that's why they're doing this program. They're doing hang cleans and deadlifts and all this other BS. That must be why they are explosive and fast and so talented, and they're getting off the ball faster than everybody else, and they're blasting through blocks. It's got to be their strength and conditioning program. This is called selection bias. Most people don't even take into consideration other factors that contributed to their success, like recruiting, coaching, the particular skills of the athletes, all these other factors, the teams they played, if they played garbage teams. But you see a team that performs so well, and a lot of people place such a high importance on strength and conditioning that they contribute their explosiveness and their speed and whatever to their strength and conditioning. When in reality, they're recruiting. They recruit really good athletes. So now the entire NCAA is doing this ridiculous Olympic-style lift for strength and conditioning programs. The purpose of a strength and conditioning program in the off-season, the main purpose is to build as much muscle and strength during the off-season, so that way, because keep in mind, when you build muscular strength and size, the connective tissues, bones, ligaments, all that stuff grow along with it. They grow stronger. So that way, you reduce the likelihood of injury during the season. If you are a stronger, more conditioned body, your likelihood of injury or a failing connective tissue is far less. A side effect of that, yes, of course, is going to be a bigger, faster, stronger athlete. But if the biggest and fastest and strongest athletes were the most successful, then the Bulgarian powerlifting team could all be NFL players. Or the Bulgarian Olympic lifting team could all be NFL players. And we know that's not the case. So although strength, muscular strength, speed, all these things contribute to an athlete's ability to perform, the most important aspect of their ability to perform is their particular skill at a given position. So far less emphasis and far less attention is being paid to that athlete's particular skill, and more so about their strength and conditioning program. Now, Saquon Barkley, most of these people are doing these Olympic-style lifts, which are ineffective, inefficient, and dangerous. They're actually producing injuries. They're actually producing, it's almost like a premeditated injury, a precursor to an injury, by performing these preseason workouts. They'd probably be better off doing nothing, honestly. So we have an epidemic of Olympic lifts through college, NFL, even high school, because the belief is that you need to train fast and train explosively to exhibit and perform explosively and fast on the field. This is false. There is no evidence at all whatsoever that supports this claim. There's actually a lot of exercise physiological evidence against it. And here's why. So speed, power, explosiveness comes down to your muscle's ability to produce force. The more force a muscle can produce while it contracts, the more it's going to propel the limb or propel your body in space. That's going to be your speed, your power, your explosiveness. We'll talk about explosiveness right now. So there's also a skill component to this. For instance, sprinting. If you want to be the fastest sprinter possible, you need to practice the body mechanics of sprinting, and then you need to strengthen the muscle groups associated with sprinting as much as you possibly can. But you cannot only strengthen the muscles and expect to be a fast sprinter, because the skill component of learning the muscle fiber recruitment pattern of sprinting and making that fiber recruitment pattern more efficient over time will allow you to run faster. So training for speed has to be broken down into what you're looking to get faster at. It's a good, like, okay, so again, sprinting. You need to practice the skill of sprinting, which is the biomechanics of running, plus become stronger. And the skill component here is extremely important. So think about, here's another good example. Basically, in a nutshell, if you want to do something faster, you need to get better at it. Here's a good example. Think about the first time you sat down to write. You were like, what, in kindergarten? You were just like making the K. Then by 5th grade, you're doing it more quickly. Why? Where did the speed come from? The speed came from motor learning. It came from learning how to do the particular activity so well that you can do it faster. Just like juggling. When you juggle, you start with 2, and then your body learns the muscle recruitment pattern. It learns, it improves its proprioception in this particular activity, and then you're able to do it more quickly. So when it comes to training for speed, skill is probably the most important part of that, because the better you are at a particular skill, the faster you can perform that skill. It's pretty simple, pretty obvious. But sports believe training for speed means lifting heavy things quickly. So if you want to make a muscle if you want to improve a muscle's ability to produce contractile force, you need to make it stronger, obviously. So how do we make it stronger? We want to recruit and fatigue the fast twitch motor units. Now, athletics believe that by lifting explosively and quickly is how you recruit, fatigue fast twitch motor units. Because lift fast, fast twitch makes sense if you're an idiot, but that's just not how it works. Muscle tissue or motor units are recruited in sequential order based on demand. So it goes through kind of like a hierarchy. It starts with the lowest order motor units or the slowest twitch muscle fiber. And then based on the demand you're putting on the muscle tissue, it will recruit bigger, thicker, fast twitch motor units. So basically, for instance, say I were to lift this lighter. It's like, okay, that's not heavy. We're going to use just, low order motor units. But say I want to go lift a boulder. In fractions of a second, your body recognizes, it goes through the cycle of slow, intermediate, and fast twitch muscle recruitment very fast, and then recruits the fast twitch muscle really quickly in order to produce as much force to lift that heavier object. It does it very quickly. But it always goes through this sequential fiber recruitment pattern. It's called Henneman's size principle of motor unit recruitment. You could do this by lifting. You could recruit and fatigue fast twitch or high order motor units by lifting very heavy or explosively or quickly. You could, because again, it's going to go through that sequential recruitment. It's just going to go through it really quickly in order to get to the high order motor units. But a safer, more effective way of recruiting and fatiguing high order motor units, along with producing a significant amount of inroad, which is a requirement for the stimulus to become stronger, you'll actually want to lift slowly into muscular failure. So consider doing a set of 10 repetitions, and you cannot get the 11th. There's no way you'll be able to get to the 11th. First 1, 2, or 3 repetitions that require, lower effort, you're going to be using low order motor units. By the time you get to 4th, 5th, and 6th, those slow twitch motor units are going to die out. They're going to fatigue out. And then you're going to start to recruit the, we'll call them intermediate motor units. By rep 8, 9, and 10, slow and intermediate twitch motor units have died out. And now you are recruiting the fastest twitch motor units because there essentially are no other lower order motor units left. Your body does not want to recruit these high order motor units. It wants to preserve them for life or death situations. But if you're carrying a set slowly to muscle failure, the 8th, 9th, and 10th rep to muscle failure, you're going to be recruiting and stimulating fast twitch motor units. No matter how you recruit and stimulate a fast twitch motor unit, you're going to make your muscle stronger and thus able to contract or produce more contractile force and thus improve explosiveness. And like I said, you can do this lifting very slowly. You do not need to lift quickly. There is no reason ever to do any exercise quickly, because improving speed, explosiveness, and power depends on making your muscles stronger, not how quickly you move during a lift. Also, moving quickly generally produces a lot of momentum. And when you're producing a lot of momentum, not only are you creating shearing forces and transferring forces into the connective tissue, but you're also reducing the amount of inroad that you're getting in your muscles. So we want to produce a fair amount of inroad so that way we can pass what's called we'll call it the stimulus threshold. There's a certain threshold. Everybody has a certain threshold which they need to hit or surpass in order to stimulate the body to grow and make the adaptation. When you first start training, the threshold is going to be very low. It's going to be like just a couple repetitions. And then as you become more advanced and you continue to train, your body continues to adapt, the threshold is going to be basically to the point of momentary muscle failure or where your body's incapable of any sort of movement. So this inroad approaching that threshold is a huge part of the stimulus for growing muscular strength and size. Now, if you are lifting explosively, very quickly, and generating peak forces, you're also generating less inroad. So your stimulus for muscular growth and strength is actually going to be worse. If you want to get the most out of stimulating muscular strength and size, you want continuous loading. So like say I was doing a biceps curl, and I'm doing it slowly so the biceps is constantly under tension. That continuous loading is going to have continuous inroad. And that's going to be a better stimulus. So that's another reason why lifting quickly is less advantageous. So first of all, the Olympic lifts are highly skill-based movements, very poor choices of exercise. When choosing an exercise, you want an exercise that requires very minimal skill, very low skill. Because the more skill an exercise requires, the less inroad you're going to be able to achieve. Because you're going to be devoting so much energy towards the performance of the skill that inroading is going to take a back seat to it. So what you want to do is you want to choose a very simple exercise. This is why machines are good. Dumbbells and barbells can be fine, but they do require more skill than a well-made machine. But you want to choose exercises that require minimal skill. So that way your focus is on fatiguing and inroading the targeted muscle group and producing the stimulation for an adaptive response, muscular strength and size, and all supporting factors of functional ability. These Olympic lifts are extremely high skill with no continuous loading in the musculature or the target muscles. So you've got high skill, very low inroad. It's a recipe for disaster. Not only is it a recipe for disaster in terms of injury, it is highly ineffective and inefficient. So keep in mind, Olympic lifting is a sport. So what I believe happened is people saw the Olympic lifters and their displays of strength during their competition, and they're like, "Oh my God, they can, power clean 405 pounds. If I want to be that strong, I need to power clean 405 pounds," without realizing that many of these Olympic lifters don't train for strength by performing their lift. They will practice their lift in order to become the most efficient and effective at doing it, but they will also train for muscular strength and size differently. They very seldom will you train for muscular strength and size with the competitive lift that you're doing. And if you are, then you're doing it completely wrong. So these Olympic lifts are not really exercises. They are displays of muscular strength and athletic ability, and they're competitive. They're competitive lifts. They're skills. So if you train this way, you're basically robbing yourself of a significant amount of inroad. You're drastically increasing your likelihood of injury. And you're improving a pretty much useless skill. And here's another thing that a lot of coaches and strength conditioning coaches don't understand, and that is the concept of skill transfer. They believe that improving something like a power clean or some sort of Olympic lift is going to somehow transfer to a similar movement on the field. Positive skill transfer, meaning when you improve one skill, when you practice a skill, it positively improves the ability to do that skill. For instance, let me break it down a little more simply. If you want positive skill transfer, you have to practice the skill as closely or preferably identical to the skill that you're trying to improve. If you want to get better at shooting a basketball, you practice shooting a basketball. Not only do you practice shooting a basketball, you practice on a regulation basketball hoop, the regulation floor, the regulation ball, the shoes you'd be wearing. It's actually funny because a lot of these driveway basketball hoops, the surface isn't the surface you would be competing on. The backboard, the rim, they're all completely different than what you would be competing on. Practicing basketball in your driveway would literally have a negative skill transfer on a regulation basketball court because of the environment is so different. So if you want a positive skill transfer, must be identical. It's called the law of specificity. It must be identical. If you perform a skill that is very close to, but a little bit different to the skill you're trying to improve, it's going to have a negative transfer. Now, with that being said, performing an Olympic lift is going to have no transfer at all whatsoever to anything you do on any field, anywhere, because it doesn't resemble anything even closely enough. And it's funny because the science behind motor learning and skill transfer has been around since the 1920s. I want to say it was 28. I've got my documents up here, but I'm not going to go through it. It's been around since the 1920s. And somehow strength conditioning coaches in professional sports missed the boat on this. You ever see an MLB player warming up with the weighted bat? Negative skill transfer right before he's about to hit the ball. He is literally screwing up the motor pathway associated with swinging a regulation bat right before he steps up to the plate and effectively lowering his chances for hitting the ball, all based on dumb superstition. This stuff is rampant in the NFL or the professional sports. But to wrap up all these points, Olympic lifting and powerlifting type lifts are not only the least effective way to improve muscular strength and size for your sport, but they're also extremely dangerous. And if you participate in them in the off season, you're very likely increasing the chance of injury during your season. So how should you be training? I mean, we all know how I train, okay? Basic movements, preferably done on a good machine like a Hammer Strength or a Nautilus, some of the Cybex stuff. 1-2 sets maybe to muscle failure, depending on how you are able to achieve muscle failure if you're a good in-roader. And just hitting the major muscle groups with a high amount of intensity, an adequate volume and frequency that you can recover from and adapt to. If you make your body stronger, if you make all the major muscle groups in your body stronger, any sport or any skill that you participate in, you're going to be able to do so with more power and more explosiveness and more speed. Because the muscles are the contractile motor, or the force-producing motors. Who said that? I believe Leonardo da Vinci said that. They're the force-producing motors in your body. They're motors. So if you improve the motor that is behind the skill you're performing, you're going to be able to do that skill more effectively, more efficiently. But training in the off season should be more focused on injury prevention during the season than performance during the season. Because there are plenty of really fast, really strong, and really big and muscular guys in the NFL, but they're not necessarily the best. Tom Brady. The guy's built like a car salesman, okay? Probably one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Although muscular strength and size and all that kind of stuff contributes to your ability to perform on your field, it is not the most important. It's not even in the top 3. So the focus for these professional athletes should be injury prevention. It should be strengthening their connective tissue in their muscles over the offseason to improve the longevity of their career. They have millions of dollars on the line. It would behoove them to have the longest career possible. Why would you could have a 2 or 3 year explosive career with all kinds of stats? Maybe you've only made $15 million, or you can have a 10-year career, maybe not the most recognized athlete, maybe not the best, but very, very good. The longer you can play, the more money you're going to make. It blows my mind that they're not focused on longevity. And if they are, they're doing some ridiculous, stupid crap like infrared or whatever. But a lot of these athletes could extend their careers by several years if they simply change the way they train. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of people in professional sports who actually know what they're talking about. And I don't see it changing anytime soon. Teams used to do this. Actually, the 1979, was it? Miami Dolphins, the only team to ever go undefeated during the regular season and win the Super Bowl. They were doing a high-intensity training protocol. The Jacksonville Jaguars, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, when they won the Super Bowl, they were doing it. You know, this kind of protocol came and went, but the thing is, you know, popularity tends to take over. And it really doesn't matter what you do with these athletes. If you give them a sack of rocks and you have them swinging around, they're going to get stronger. So with that said, the best thing you would want to do with these professional athletes is give them the safest protocol possible. Because so you can make a badass, explosive, fast, powerful, mean son of a bitch NFL player, but what good is he if he's injured and he's not on the field? Injury prevention needs to be number one, and with slow, controlled training, not doing Olympic movements, sticking to machines or low-scale dumbbell movements or barbell movements are going to be significantly more productive and safer than what most NFL athletes are doing. Mark my word for it, Saquon Barkley, I bet he'll be injured by October. We'll see. 1973. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to go through a couple of questions now after my little rant. If you have any questions about that, shoot them. If you want your question read more quickly, feel free to shoot me a super chat. The donations are appreciated. Why Kai Green train like high reps? High reps, low reps, it really doesn't matter. As long as you're reaching momentary muscle failure, and there is research to support this, the amount of repetitions you perform to get there doesn't matter. It can be 8, it can be 80. As long as you're reaching momentary muscle failure, like I said, you recruit and fatigue motor units in sequential order. So if you're going to do 8 reps, you're going to achieve muscle failure and start recruiting those high order motor units, those fast twitch motor units, in a more time efficient manner. You could do 80 reps, but it's going to take you until 75, 76, 77 in order to finally tap in to the fast twitch motor units, which are the most responsible for muscular hypertrophy. Fast twitch motor units are thicker, girthier motor units, thicker fibers, and they are predisposed to more growth, more hypertrophy, more myofibrillar, I think I said that right, hypertrophy. So the goal of building muscle, your goal should be to recruit and fatigue fast twitch motor units. If you're not, you will experience some growth, but not even close to what you would be able to if you're training and recruiting fast twitch motor units. In the case of Kai Green, he's just doing way more than he needs to do. He's a professional bodybuilder, so I think he probably subconsciously designs his workouts to take forever because he doesn't really have a job. So he's going to the gym every day, and that's his job. So it's like, what's a good example? He's simply doing more than he needs to do. It's like, actually, my father's got a neighbor who does this. It's like mowing your lawn and then going over it 10 more times. You got it the first time. Those other 9 times were just a complete waste of your time. My father actually has a neighbor that goes over his lawn all effing day. He's a retired guy, and I don't know what he thinks he's going to accomplish. But to you and I, that would seem crazy. When you mow your lawn, put the thing away, you're done. But what Kai Green is essentially doing is mowing his lawn and then doing it 9 more times, thinking it's going to mow his lawn better, or his lawn is going to look better. And you and I both know it's not. It's just inefficient and it's time wasting. Kind of training misconceptions with it because of superb genetics and steroid. Actually, yeah, that's true, David McWright. They did. They got caught up in common training misconceptions because they don't know anything about training. And again, yeah, the reason they lasted and the reason they were able to do them without falling apart into the NFL is because their genetics are ridiculous. The steroid part, I don't think steroids will help with injury prevention, but Saquon Barkley is clearly on them. They're all on them. Okay. Don't let them fool you for a second that they're not. You think the NFL is going to actually ban steroids so that way their athletes are less freakish, so that way they make less money? No. The NFL wants freaks. They want demons on the field. They're going to let them. They all take human growth hormone, like that real crazy stuff. Of course, it's a freak show. The NFL, of course they're going to be politically correct and say, oh, we steroid test and we yada, yada, yada. They want them on steroids. Come on. I actually personally know a Division I football player who got kicked out for selling steroids to his teammates. Division I, same thing. Again, you're competing at that high level. If I was in the NFL, I'd be doing it too. Are you crazy? Of course I would. Let's see. Arthur Jones says success reinforces bad habits. Yup. Arthur Jones was a brilliant friggin' guy. Failure was when you need to learn and improve. Oh, man, it's funny. I've read that. Again, I go through Arthur Jones stuff repeatedly. Arthur Jones, Ken Hutchins, Drew Bay. I know a lot of people love Dr. Doug McGuff, but once you've read Body by Science, you kind of, read everything he has. But Ken Hutchins and Arthur Jones, who's the other guy? Ellington Darden. What's his name? John Little. All these guys. Tons of awesome books. All right. Anyone know the lean gains protocol of Martin Birkin? I have no idea who that is. Hold on one second, guys. I'm going to get a little bit of cold water. Keep in mind, too, guys, your muscle is pretty much all water. So if you want to maximize hypertrophy and muscle growth, you need to be drinking water all the friggin' time. Get yourself one of these. It's what's it called? Hypertrophy. Keeps your water cold. I drink like 6 of these a day. Just drink it all day. There's no reason to not be drinking water. It's so easy. Explain the myth of muscle atrophy. Gym bros who think muscle atrophy in a week. Yeah, that's annoying. So what they're feeling is, so there's 2 things. There's something called sarcoplasmic hypertrophy and myofibrillar hypertrophy. So within your sarcomere, you have myofibrils. And basically, so you have a muscle fiber, and at the smallest level, you have a sarcomere. And in the sarcomere, you have like little dots, like myofibrils that run through them. And in the myofibril, you have the actin and myosin filaments and all that stuff. So what happens is when you're training kind of frequently, you have kind of plasma within the sarcomere. And that will actually grow and expand. So you'll have what's called sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. It's a temporary side effect of training. It has kind of something to do with like the pump and frequency of training. So the sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, the temporary adaptation, you'll increase the amount of sarcoplasma in the sarcomere, and it will cause a temporary thickening of the sarcomere. The long-term adaptation is myofibrillar hypertrophy, which means you added myofibrils to the sarcomere, thus making it relatively permanently thicker. So most of what the gym bros are feeling is in their head because they're crazy. And 2, it could be a feeling of a reduction in sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. Also, when you're lifting every day, you're expanding your blood vessels. So you're feeling that pump. So when your blood vessels are dilating and you're feeling that pump, you're feeling bigger. If you don't do that for a couple of days, yeah, the blood vessels are back to normal and you're not feeling as pumped as you usually do. So that's why people think they've lost all their gains when they take a week off or a couple of days off. But you're not going to reduce muscle size missing 1 week of training. Not even 2, not even 3. I think research shows that you'd have to be literally sedentary, and it would have to take about 6 weeks for any sort of like real atrophy to take place. Bodybuilders and gym bros are idiots. Whatever they tell you to do, literally do the opposite of it, and you're headed in the right direction. All right. It's just looking routines. Off Mike Mentzer. Mike Mentzer was good. He just, I don't know. He was kind of like, got a little weird towards the end. Again, like him and like Ellington Darden, and they kind of just said the same things over and over for years. Do you ever directly train calves? I find it hard to get to failure like my other. Hell yeah, I train calves. I love training calves because they burn like a bitch. So do calf training. Your calves are not going to be effectively stimulated during a leg press. Like a lot of people in the HIIT community think, there's no reason to not do a heel raise. You can do it just holding dumbbells. You can do it on one leg. You can get in a Smith machine and just do heel raises like that. At the gym I go to, there's a stupid ass overkill of a machine, but it feels pretty good and it works good. I train calves once a week, and I do just one real hard set to failure. So the way I like to do it is, it's not, HIIT-esque, but I'll do it very slow, for about 10 reps until I'm really approaching failure. So you come all the way down, stretch your calf, and then slowly change direction, come up and contract as high as you can. Get as high as you possibly can, slowly change direction, come down. Do it until about failure. And then what I do is I'll do 5 to 10 quick reps. You know, like all the idiots do in the gym. They get on the calf machine, they go, I'll do that at the end just for some additional inroad. So yeah, you definitely want to train calves 1-2 sets to failure. A lot of people, I recommend like 2 sets to failure to a lot of people, because the reason is your definition of failure is probably far different than mine. If I were to put you through an exercise, 1 set is all you need because you'd be dead. But most people are not able to carry themselves to that failure threshold as well as they would like to think they can. You really have to experience it and feel it in order to get a good aiming point for that. So I would recommend, for calves, do 2 sets to failure. For a lot of you guys, unless you're an experienced HIIT trainee and you've trained under the instruction of a HIIT trainer, don't feel bad about doing a couple sets. Do enough to where you feel like you're fried. You don't want to like do a set to failure and be like, all right. No, you want to feel whooped. And if at the end of 1 set, you don't feel like you got it or fried whatever targeted muscle group you were working, do another. You're not going to, Body by Science, unfortunately, got a lot of people to believe that, doing an additional set would somehow like ruin you. No, there's nothing wrong with doing an additional set. I do two sets sometimes. I like to do breakdown sets. I like to, do a set of like, 8 to 10, drop the weight really quick, and then do another 5. And then it comes out to, 90 seconds of time under load. All that stuff really doesn't matter. It's just inroad deeply, do it safely, don't do too much, and do it with a decent amount of consistency or frequency. All right, what's this? How do I take this off now? It looks like too much deprivation of macronutrients for the body to use to increase size and strength in the frequent meals. I'm not really sure what he's referring to. All right, let's see. 1973. RG3 suffered from bad training. Yup. Especially plyometrics. Yes, this stuff, I used to do this in high school, and I was really good at it because I myself am an athletic freak. I ran a 4.440 when I was in high school. I had a vertical jump of about 39 inches. The 5.10.5 drill I did in 3.9 seconds. I was a freak. And when it came to plyometrics, I was very good at it. So what happens is you take these athletes and you have them do things like plyometrics, and they're able to perform them. So you think that they're like somehow beneficial. We used to do box jumps. We used to jump off the box and land with like weights in our hands. Plyometrics are unnecessary and relatively useless because even if you can improve your ability to jump on a box, that's not going to transfer to your ability to jump on a basketball court or on a field, because there's still slightly different muscle recruitment patterns enough to where that skill is not going to transfer. All right, what's this? All right. He sent me this question the other day. So, how long before you should see results from N=1 experiments with HIIT? Switching frequently isn't efficient, but how long is too long? Well, how long should you see results? That varies tremendously. Okay, so if you are an untrained individual, never lifted before in your life, you're going to see results immediately. Most people are going to see almost all of their genetic potential or their results within 6 months to a year of training. So when it comes to switching your frequency, If you are an untrained individual, start off with a higher frequency and a relatively higher volume. But as time goes on, your ability to inroad and fatigue your muscles with every given exercise is going to improve, meaning you generate more stress and more fatigue during each workout as time goes on and as you get more experience. Now, if you're generating more fatigue and more of a stress, your ability to recover from that stress is fixed. It's genetically predetermined. That does not improve over time. So if you're able to essentially dig a deeper hole over time and your ability to climb out of that hole does not improve, what you're going to want to do as time goes on is reduce the frequency. Actually, first start by reducing the volume. Then, if that doesn't work, reduce the frequency. So let's say, 2 to 3 versus 5 to 7. Most people aren't going to need to train every 5 to 7 days. If you train every 5 to 7 days, most people, that's enough to definitely prevent atrophy. But if you're looking for optimal results for most people, that's going to be far less efficient. There's a lot of factors that contribute to this. Most people are not going to have these huge muscle building genetic predispositions like high fiber type distribution, high amount of fast twitch fibers throughout their body, muscle fiber density, all these other things. Most people are not going to have that. If you have those genetic predispositions, generally a little less frequency is going to help you. But I think almost everybody could train every third or fourth day. So every 5 to 7 days, that's, I wouldn't really recommend. Okay, again, if you're training on your own, you're going to be able to tolerate a higher volume of frequency. If I was training you, you get a lot more out of it. So every 5 to 7 days could be feasible under professional instruction, but on your own, you'd be fine twice a week, every second or third day. I don't think anybody needs to go out as far as 5 to 7 days unless you're like, 80 years old. And I've had 80-year-olds training twice a week with me. And one guy, Doug, he was a monster. So don't, again, that's this whole belief and kind of like cult following that Body by Science got, that like you have to like once a week is somehow optimal. It is not. It is not optimal for almost anybody. Again, even 80-year-olds, I could train them twice a week with 7 to 9 exercises. So ignore the Body by Science stuff. That is a starting point. And Doug even says this. It's a starting point. And then you adjust your routine from there. If you are looking for basic general health benefits and you don't care about body composition or anything else having to do with functional ability, then 5 exercises once a week will give you the basic health benefits of exercise. But it's going to stop there. It is in no way optimal. All right. Let's see what this. Negative only routines. I don't see a lot of HIIT guys talk about them anymore or train with them anymore. What's my opinion? Negative only routines. I would take my clients through some exercises negative only, but I would never do a negative only routine. The thing is, James Steele and James Fisher out in the UK did a study comparing all of these advanced routines. So that's rest, pause, breakdown sets, negative only, negative accentuated. And what they found was there is no difference in muscular strength and size compared to simply performing the set to muscle failure. So there's this old Nautilus belief that once you reach failure, you also want to reach negative failure and negative only in training. Since you can theoretically lower about 40%, it changes between muscle groups. 40% more than you can lift, then you want to train the negative phase as well. But the current research suggests that there's no additional benefit to negative-only exercises or negative-only routines. But if you want some variation, there's nothing wrong with doing them either. I don't think, and the research as well, it's going to produce a different or a better adaptation than simply doing a regular workout to muscle failure with a volume and frequency that you can recover from and adapt to. So negative is cool. It's like this, this cool Nautilus thing. I do them every now and then. I'll do negative only chins just because they're friggin' brutal. Like, it's great to do this stuff for variation, but I would never latch on to something like that thinking that it's going to be the holy grail of muscular growth and strength, because there is no holy grail of muscular growth and strength. For the most part, it's your genetics and your diet and your rest. You could theoretically do bodybuilder routines and unlock your genetic growth and strength. You're just going to waste a lot of time and probably get hurt in the process. All right, super chat. Thank you. Let's see. You're coming right up. I have no access to machines. What are the best type of workouts to do this type of training? You're going to have to be a little bit more specific. Do you mean exercises? So the best type of exercises without machines, I would recommend buying Drew Bay's Project Kratos. He's got a lot of body weight exercises in there and goes into detail about how to do them. But if you have access to free weights, just do basic barbell and dumbbell exercises. You can do a bench press, a squat, a barbell curl, a barbell row, an overhead press. You can do this with free weights. Just perform each exercise in a slow, controlled manner and train to muscle failure. That's pretty much what it comes down to. These are just different tools. There are plenty of different tools to do this with. High-intensity training principles are train to failure, choose exercises that are congruent with muscle and joint function of the muscle you are trying to work, and train with a volume and frequency that you can recover from and adapt to. And what the research suggests is generally one set to muscle failure is enough volume to produce a stimulation. But you can do this with anything. You could train your biceps with 2 jugs of water. You can do it with, I always use the bag of rocks or the bag of potatoes example. It really doesn't matter what tool you use. Better tools are going to be safer and more efficient, just like the example I like to use too is, there are plenty of ways to travel. I'm in Florida. If I wanted to go back up to New York, I could get there a million different ways. The most efficient and safe way is an airplane. I can use rollerblades. I can use a car. They're just going to be less efficient and less safe. So whatever tool you use, it doesn't really matter. It's just better tools are more efficient, safer. And some really good tools like MedX or Nautilus equipment is going to allow you to inroad a little deeper. But, that's splitting hairs at that point, the amount of inroad. You can inroad very deeply, even with static exercises. That's why I suggest Drew Bay's Project Kratos. I can't really give you too much information on this, like other than just perform basic, posterior movements, anterior horizontal movements, vertical, horizontal and posterior, anterior and posterior movements, and then something for the legs. But there are programs out there, Drew Bay's Project Kratos, which will go in more detail and give you a step-by-step guide as to how to do that from home with body weight and even isometrics. Dave McWright, love to hit content. Have you tried Darden's 30-10-30 technique? It was designed to replicate the effects of X-Force machines. No, I haven't. So, again, as long as you're generating a deep level of muscle fatigue, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. Doing Darden's 30, and the proof is in the pudding. There's a gazillion good physiques out there now, most of them drug enhanced. And they're all doing different things because the stimulus is a deep, meaningful level of muscle fatigue. You could do it by doing 30-10-30. You could do it by pushing against this counter until your muscles give out. You could do it by swinging a bag of rocks. It doesn't really matter as long as you're generating a deep level of muscle fatigue. So, Darden's 30-10-30 is not going to stimulate the holy grail of improvements in muscular strength and size that you weren't able to manifest in the past. So say you've been training for 20 years and you're 180 pounds and you wanted to get to 200, you could never quite get there. Darden's 30-10-30 is not going to get you there. All right, so these are just different ways of skinning the cat, so to speak. There are plenty of ways to skin the cat. This is a different one. X-Force machines, I've used them. They're really friggin' cool. I really like them, but it is severe overkill. You don't need it. I would probably prefer to train on them because they're awesome, but they're not going to produce a better stimulus than a Nautilus or even a hammer strength machine. It's more of a marketing thing, and I've used them, and it really does like hit you on the way down, and it does have really good drop off at the fully extended position. But I went through a whole workout instructed. They tried to kill me, and my workouts are doing my own are harder. So, Do you notice any big differences between the different lines of Nautilus? Also, heavier per line. Yeah. Well, I have a ton of this stuff. So I have a line of MedX. Some of the MedX I love. Some of the Nitro I love. Some of the 2ST I love. And some of the really old stuff I like. So when it comes to leg press, MedX by far the best. Like, not even close. This machine, the MedX leg press, if you do a set to failure on that damn thing, there is nothing in the universe that will replicate that feeling. Insane. Leg extension machine, my favorite is the Nautilus 2ST. Leg curl machine, my favorite, Nautilus 2ST. Chest press, MedX. Pull down, Nautilus Nitro. Row, Nautilus Nitro. Overhead press, MedX. Lumbar extension, obviously the MedX. Biceps machine. I mean, Nitro and 2ST are kind of the same thing. Honestly, I just kind of like doing a barbell curl. What else? What am I missing here? Abs. I really like my Nautilus 2ST ab machine too. So some lines are better, in my opinion, for other things. My favorite, if I had to choose one line, it'd probably be MedX. Jay Schoenfeld says, for muscle gain, I think he means Brad Schoenfeld, says for muscle gain to do 20 sets over 2 workouts a week, which goes against HIIT. All right, there's a lot of problems with his research because he doesn't define volume properly. He defines volume as sets and reps. Okay, so consider you do 5 reps, 5 seconds raising the weight, and 5 seconds lowering the weight. And consider you do 5 reps, 1 second raising the weight, 1 second lowering the weight. So it's going to look like this. 5 times versus this 5 times. We could agree that that is not the same exercise volume. So you do 5 sets slowly raising the weight, 5 seconds to be slowing the weight, 5 sets and 5 reps is going to be a significantly higher amount of volume than doing it quickly. So the problem with Brad Schoenfeld's research is that they do not control rep cadence. If they were to control rep cadence or properly define volume, the volume is properly defined as time under load or effort over time. So for instance, typical gym bro goes in, does 3 sets of 10 overhead press. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. Each set lasts about 10 to 12 seconds. By 3 sets, he did about 36 seconds of time under load. And it's not even continuous time under load, which is another thing. Take the HIIT guy. Does 1 set, 5 seconds up, 5 seconds down, 10 reps. He did 100 seconds of time under load. 1 set doing a high-intensity training approach, in this instance, is 3 times the volume of their traditional 3 sets of 10 with a fast rep cadence. That's the problem. So if you were to measure the amount of time under load in his 20 sets over 2 workouts, it's probably less than the time under load with 2 traditional high-intensity training workouts. High-intensity training is generally a higher volume because the rep cadence is slower and the muscles are under continuous tension. And Jim Myth Hunter. All right. Let's see. Opinions on 20 rep breather squats. Not really sure what that is. Could you give me a brief description of what that is real quick? Training in Jim Myth Hunter. Greetings from Uruguay. Thank you for joining me, Wilson Luna. Appreciate it. We're going to leave this question up. Go ahead and, if you're still there, give me a quick explanation of what the heck that is. So as you notice, there's a lot of different stuff out here. 20 rep breather squats, whatever the heck that is. There's a lot of different stuff because, again, the foundation of getting your body to adapt and respond in setting in motion the stimulus is deep inroad, which is another definition of that is muscle fatigue. Let me bring something up right here. Hold on. Hang on one second, guys. I'm going to show you something quite useful. All right. All right, I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to explain to you what inroad is. I get that. However, how many effective reps are on one hit set? Okay, again, it doesn't matter how many reps. It matters the amount of time the muscle is under load or creating or under tension. The reps don't matter. Reps, although there is every time you lift and lower the weight, there is mechanical damage, but research has found that the mechanical damage associated with the exercise or lifting and lowering phase is not as important as they once thought. So, I mean, each set of bread sets include effective reps. What does he mean by an effective rep, though? The effective, a stimulating rep is one that requires a high amount of effort. So the only reps that stimulate the growth process are the ones that require a high amount of effort. The first few leading up to the high effort repetitions are simply a building point or involved in the process to getting to the point where you're recruiting and fatiguing fast twitch motor units. The last reps that activate the fibers. Yeah, the effective reps are the ones to failure. So again, it's called Henneman's principle of sequential motor unit recruitment. So if you're doing a set to 10, can't get the 11th, 10 reps is all you can do. The first few reps, you're recruiting and fatiguing slow twitch motor units. The last few reps, you're recruiting high twitch motor units. Motor units are recruited based on effort. The more effort you are putting into a muscle contraction, the higher order the motor unit recruited. Whether this happens in 5 reps, 10 reps, or 200 reps, it does not matter. As long as you're getting to the point where you are putting a lot of effort into a muscular contraction, you are going to recruit and thus inroad fast twitch motor units and stimulate the growth process. All right, let's see. I'm going to explain this really quickly to you guys. I'm going to share my screen. Entire screen. Okay. All right, look at this. So this is an example of inroad. So this blue line here is our load. This is the load we have chosen. This green line is our momentary ability or our momentary strength. There's a red line here. I think it's defined as like the danger zone. This is where your tissues fail. So basically what happens is over the course of a set, say the most we can lift is 100 pounds. So we're choosing 50. So over the course of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 repetitions, our motor units begin to die out and our momentary strength begins to decline because of less available motor units. As our momentary strength declines, the amount of effort involved to create tension against this resistance increases. Eventually, we get to the point where no matter how much effort we put in, we cannot move the load, and this is what we call momentary muscle failure. This is the process of inroad. We are inroading or reducing our momentary ability over time using a load to generate fatigue and create this inroad. That's the purpose of the load. Whether we do this process in 10 reps or 200 reps, it does not matter as long as we reach this point where our momentary ability equals the amount of resistance. And negative training would be akin to this, going far deeper than you need to. That makes sense? All right, let's see. Salvatore Martino. I like the last name. I train in an MMA gym with most UFC fighters with a fitness room full of hammer strength that no one uses. They're crazy. All they do is BS, plyometrics, and waste energy. Could you comment on doing all this? Yeah, these MMA, a good friend of mine from back in New York was a mixed martial artist and competed. And I trained him for about 2 years doing this method. And this guy was about 162 pounds, about 5'10", ripped to the bone. We measured his body fat at, I think it was like 6 or 7%. And he was so strong. So I would work him through a full range of motion. Generally, I prefer an effective range of motion. I don't go towards a full range of motion. Just because a joint is capable of a particular range of motion doesn't mean you should be putting it in that position, nor should you be loading it. But in his case, he was a mixed martial artist, meaning he had to be able to produce force in passive insufficiency and active insufficiency. So, I trained him very intensely once a week for several months before his fight. And he was so much stronger than this other guy, it looked like he was playing with a child. The guy got him in an arm bar. So my buddy was standing up like this. He had his arm like this, and he was cranking his arm. He was cranking his arm in this position. So this is my friend. The guy down here had him in an arm bar. And my friend, the MMA fighter, simply just broke out of it like this. Broke out of the damn arm bar. Made this guy look like a child. And that was from slow, intense resistance training because we were working his muscles in these particular ranges of motion that he would be in potentially in a fight. All this plyometric nonsense, again, is going to it's producing microtrauma in their connective tissue over time. Oh, my God. And again, like the fight ends when they get injured. So it would behoove them to train in a way that reduces their chance of injury the most. Makes no sense. I have personal experience training an MMA fighter, and he did insanely well, and he looked the part too. Trust me. Do you track TOL or reps yourself with clients? I switched to tracking reps for myself. Yeah, if you're training on your own, I would just track reps because if you're carrying a stopwatch, it's not going to be accurate. I time it with a stopwatch with my clients and make it very precise. Me personally, I don't do any of it anymore. I just lift to failure. I've hit my genetic potential. I'm not going to really get much stronger. My goal now is to just keep applying the stimulus to my body to maintain what I built. So I'm not really tracking reps or weight anymore. But if you are in the gym, tracking your reps is fine. If you have someone that can time you, that's probably a little better. But again, you're going to reach a point where you're not going to see significant changes on a regular basis. So you may get for 4 weeks, 8 reps, 8 reps, 8 reps, 8 reps, 9. So don't let it stress you out and convince yourself that you're not getting stronger or there's something with your training simply because you're not getting a rep or two more each workout. It's going to drastically slow down over time to the point where you won't even notice any improvements. Let's see. I trained it. All right. Lots of videos about. So Jay, really just do one set to failure. Like I said earlier, I'm not sure if you were here earlier, but when training on your own, if you can get it done in one set, fine. Sometimes you may need 2. The goal is to deeply and aggressively fatigue the targeted muscle group. When you've done that, you know it. You are going to feel, when you get done with that exercise, you are going to feel that there's absolutely no way you can continue doing that exercise. That's what you want to do. Ideally, you'd want to get this in one set. If you don't, 2's fine. I do 2 sets on some things once in a while because some of the machines are so bad sometimes where I have to train to where I don't feel like I generated a deep enough inroad to where I'll just take some weight off and do another set. Bring it to the point where your muscles feel relatively useless, that particular muscle group you targeted, and that is a stimulus. That's how you know you hit the stimulus threshold, when you've generated so much fatigue that you really notice it. Hey, stop. So you can do one set. If you want to do more, but I wouldn't do like 3, 4, 5 sets to failure to the point where you're completely burnt out. Then you're going to teeter on the side of overtraining. But most people training on their own without an instructor are not generating as much fatigue as they think. After one set, I'm doing rest, pause, I'm done. Yeah, you could do that. You could do like a set extender. That's fine too. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a set extender. You just want you'll know. And you just don't want to get to the point where you cook your muscles and then continue to go, because there's a point of diminishing returns. The most dramatic strength transformation I've seen in people I've trained are the older demographics, because these older individuals are basically you have a point where when you dip below, they're basically teetering on the border of being immobile, older people. So to get them way above that threshold takes very little training. So I've had really old individuals come in who were extremely weak, extremely atrophied, and they tend to respond the fastest and most drastically. I had a particular individual who had MS, and I used to spend a little extra time with him and have him come in. The first time he came in, he was in an electric wheelchair. By the end of the second month, he was coming in with his walker. Okay. And I was doing about 4 or 5 exercises with him. I think I was doing twice a week, maybe like 3, maybe 5 exercises twice a week. His neuromuscular efficiency and his nervous system and his muscles improved so much that he was taking his walker into training instead of the electric wheelchair. So the more deconditioned and atrophied you are, the more significant your strength improvement is going to be. It's not like I had, some 23-year-old dude who, was a weakling and then turned out to be Hercules. That doesn't happen, because if you're going to turn out to be Hercules, you'd be Hercules already. All right, let's see. Actually, one particular individual, Sam. This guy came to me a few years ago. pretty good genetics. He was about 190 pounds, muscular guy. Like, you'd be like, yeah, you're above average muscular. And then he started to explain to me what he was doing. I'm like, wow, it's a whole lot of bullshit. So he started coming to me once a week and then doing his own training on the side. And within a couple of years, he was about 210 pounds. So he got huge. And he continued to come to me for several years because we put about 205 probably. We put about 15 pounds of muscle on him. So that particular case, his training was insufficient. He was unaware. He had good genetics. He was, a pretty muscular guy. It was only until I started to trash his muscles that his body started to produce the growth stimulus. And then he became very, very muscular. Almost probably could have been a bodybuilder. And he just, he did his own workout. He was a member of the gym. He came to me every single week because he could not replicate what I did instructing him. He could not replicate it on his own in the gym. So his own thing in the gym was kind of like a psychological benefit. He liked going to the gym. He liked just kind of pushing and moving things. He came to me for the gains. Have you ever tried the 14 workouts from the Colorado experiment? Seem brutal. No, I have not. Again, I'm not sure because I've never seen a workout instructed by Arthur Jones, but I did see once instructed by the Mensers and Boyer Co. There's an old video, and they were bad. They were very bad. Boyer Co. trained to failure on a chin-up machine, and it was like, I'm like, I have my 8-year-old clients doing more than that. It was rough. So I wonder if they were actually, now the way HIIT evolved over the past several decades, I feel like people are training a lot more intensely and harder now than they were back then. Like, you watch one of Doug McGuff's workouts, I don't think Arthur Jones is putting anybody through as hard as Doug trains. No friggin' way. So I wonder if the Colorado experiment was even – the Colorado experiment workouts are probably not even close to as hard as the ones I put my clients through. No way. All right. Brooklyn born. Hit my genetic potential when I was 21. I haven't made a gain in over 30 years. Spent thousands of hours research before I knew. Spoke to mention or whatever. But yeah, dude, yep, you did. It's a really tough pill to swallow, but you probably did. You probably hit your genetic potential. And this is why the supplement industry and the exercise fitness industry is so successful, is because people will try everything, because they've convinced people over the years that it's up to them what their body looks like. As if you could, like, a phrase that infomercials used to use a lot was sculpt and tone your body. As if you can, make your body look however you want it to. That's a myth. You can't. It's pretty much due to your genetics and then, of course, your diet. But that's why the industry is so successful, because there are people who, they look at the magazine or they see this guy walking down the street or this other guy in the gym, and they're like, man, I want to look like that. I must be doing something wrong. Well, here's the thing. A lot of people are doing everything wrong, but not wrong in the sense to where they should be looking like gorillas, and they're not, because they're doing a high volume approach. The purpose of, again, high intensity training opposed to a high volume approach is that not that high intensity training is going to give you like these ridiculously better gains. It's going to give you better gains, but it's not going to be like fitness model versus nerd. You know what I mean? They're going to give you better gains, but the thing is, you're going to spend a lot less time with a lot less injuries reaching your genetic potential. And time is something you cannot get back. It's the most valuable thing you have. So you're going to want to choose the most time-efficient way of achieving this. Also, you're going to have a lot less wear and tear on your joints. So the whole high-intensity training thing, we look at me and we're like, oh, you got that way lifting twice a week. And it's like, well, my genetics were going to allow me to look this way no matter what. If next time I'll have a picture of when I was 18 years old. I looked like a fitness model at 18 years old, and I was doing everything wrong. I was training 6 days a week, not training legs, and eating McDonald's every day. All right, it's genetics. What's intriguing, what's interesting is that now I'm able to have this physique barely working out, spending no time doing this a couple times a week. That I think is significant. So, you've got all these other bodybuilders and all these other fitness models out there who are spending 6-7 days a week in the gym, and they look the same as me. So I'm using my time more wisely. I'm probably going to end up a millionaire by the time I die, and all these other guys are going to waste their whole life in the gym. It's just silly to me. All right. Oh, and as for negatives, one more time. There's no real additional benefit to doing negatives, but it's not a bad approach if you want to change up your workout and want a little more variation. That's pretty. Hey, Tony's here. What's up, Tony? So, unless you guys have any more questions, I'm just gonna wrap that up from now. Any questions on pro athletes and how pro athletes train? I kind of hit the basis of it. It was a very basic and brief explanation of what they're doing wrong. And if you guys would like me to go into more detail on that and look at specific workouts, I could do that. Let's see. What's the longest frequency between workouts you had a client go and still make progress? I had one woman, Jane, who no, this wasn't Jane. This was Lauren. Yeah, she was probably like 51, 52. If she didn't have at least 10 days of rest, she made no progress at all. She was weak. Literally, she was shot for 9 days. And that is the most extreme case I've ever had, is 10 days in between. She needed 9 or 10 full days of rest in between before she could work out again. 90% of people, 2 or 3 days of full rest, you're fine. So, get this whole 5 exercises 1 day a week thing out of your head. That's gonna give you, if you're an old individual and almost immobile, that would be life-changing for you. 5 exercises once a week. But if you're a 45-year-old man or woman and you're looking to improve your body composition as best you can, don't do 5 exercises once a week, 1 set. Don't do 5 sets of exercises once a week. Unless Doug McGuff is putting you through them, no way. Because again, the amount of intensity you have to derive from those 5 exercises it has to be huge. If Doug put you through 5 or 6 exercises once a week, you probably make progress. But if you're doing it on your own, I wouldn't. Oh, man. This is funny. Tom Brady sounded like you. You can't expect to train slow and play fast. It's unfortunate that these people are so ignorant because we've known this science for 100 effing years. And you've got NFL players saying things like, you can't expect to train slow and play fast. We've known this for a century. And the best, richest, high-ticket athletes are getting wrong advice. It's unbelievable. Maybe one day it'll turn around. It's probably not, because Tom Brady can, play with his little resistance bands and make his muscles more, flexible, he says, whatever the hell he's talking about. He can do whatever the hell he wants. He's still going to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, so it really doesn't matter. But, I'm trying to think of one thing. Yeah, there was so in a nutshell, doing these functional exercises that a lot of these athletes do, they're not going to transfer. If you do in a functional full body exercise, this isn't going to make you better to doing a completely different skill on the field. Here's another good example I use. Swinging a hockey stick and swinging a golf club are virtually the same friggin' motion, aren't they? But not all hockey players are great golfers, and not all golfers are great hockey players. They're like the same thing. So if those skills don't transfer, how does a power clean transfer to anything on a football field? It doesn't. The end. And that's going to be it for my live stream tonight. Thank you guys for coming in. I got a lot of topics. I'm going to do like 2 of these a week. Next one, I'm going to just pay attention to Instagram, pay attention to Facebook, YouTube. I'm going to set them up a couple days before. A topic, again, I'm going to go like 30 minutes explaining the topic and then spending another hour to 45 minutes or so answering all your questions. If you guys want your question answered first, throw me a super chat. And again, I appreciate you guys for being here. This is a lot of fun. I really do enjoy doing this, and I really enjoy answering these questions. And I enjoy helping you guys figure this crap out. So keep attending, keep coming in. This is friggin' awesome. And I'm going to post the topic for the next video, probably tomorrow, set it up for a couple days later, and hope you guys all can join me again. And let me know if this time works for people. I figured like 7 p.m. is probably a decent time for most people who are home. And yeah, that's it. So thank you guys very much. Have an excellent night. And you sound like Dan Riley. Practice your skill. Yeah, Dan. Yeah, that's if you haven't read his books or read any of his stuff, you should do that too. Book recommendations, anything by Drew Bay, Ellington Darden, Ken Hutchins. I'm going through a couple Ken Hutchins books now, so I'm going to have a lot more on like skill transfer and skill type stuff. All right, so have an excellent wrong look at Happy Gilmore. Yeah, all right, yeah, that's a good point. All right, guys, have a good night. I'll see you in a couple days. Thank you again for joining this live stream. I hope I taught you guys a lot. That's my goal. And I'll see you next time, and I hope to give you guys some more very useful knowledge. Have a good night, guys. Thank you.